Hey everybody, welcome to a bit of a chat about Forza 5. My name's Cam Shea, and with me is
Luke Riley.
the delightful Luke Riley, who's just got off the back of reviewing this game for IGN.
I have been playing it quite extensively.
And the reason we're having a conversation is because this game is very much in your wheelhouse. You are essentially the simulation racing expert on IGN. So this is kind of like this is one of your real kind of passion
This is my
areas.
bread and butter.
It's your bread and butter. Whereas for me, I'm much more of an arcade racer kind of guy, and have always been. My philosophy has been, unless you're braking to enter into a crazy power slide, I don't want a bar of it. But I've always kind of respected the Forza series, but I've never really gotten that deep into it. But I spent a whole heap of time with it on the weekend, and was just really pleasantly surprised by how much it hooked me in. So the reason we thought we'd have a chat is just because we're coming to this game from really, really different places, but we've both found things that we really, really love about it, and that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, the thing is, looking at these cars, like I don't know what any of these cars are. Like I have no real interest in motorsports. One car is much the same as another to me.
Yep.
Really, like from a kind of context perspective. It's all about how it feels. Whereas you obviously know this stuff really well.
Yeah, I mean, I watch all these doors closing, and it gives me the little mild throbbings in the loins and all that sort of stuff. But I found it really interesting when we were chatting after the weekend, because I was tracking you playing it all over the weekend. I could see you moving up driver level. Your driver tire kept popping up in my games. I'm like, Cam really is getting stuck into this game.
Yep.
And I wouldn't have really picked it, but
I wouldn't have picked it either. I hopped in to play for a few hours to see what it was like, and then the next thing I know, I'd spent most of my weekend playing it.
It's just one of those things where it's the same reason a game like FIFA hooks me, because it's such a well-made game. I don't care about soccer. In fact, I actively dislike soccer. But FIFA's such a well-made game that I can absolutely respect it, and I'll play it with friends.
Yep.
This, I think, it's so layered, and you can turn on the assists to customize the experience to just perfect, just how you want it.
Yep.
And it doesn't hurt that. I mean, look at this. It just looks amazing.
Man, that straight is just unbelievable.
Just that corner, I literally cannot get enough of that corner. Coming into the chase, just going out left, and then just hooking it in.
Yep.
Not lifting, absolutely flat chat, straight into that, and then just hard on the brakes.
Yep.
And it's tricky, because I like to. I mean, honestly, my one concession is ABS. I really just can't get the braking on the pads without ABS on. But
right, so you and I are the same in that regard.
Yeah,
then. Interesting.
But I do turn off all the racing line and the traction control and other stuff like that.
Yep.
So yeah, just nailing that braking point after that corner, it's just sublime.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, Bathurst is such a memorable track. And again, this is like one of the first times I've ever seriously raced Bathurst in a racing game. I know it's been in a bunch of them in the past, but there haven't been games that appealed to me. But now I have such a attachment to this mountain now, which is bizarre. So for me, I have a lot of the assists on, but I've kind of tuned it. I've bumped the difficulty of the AI up a little bit.
Yep.
Handling's on kind of normal. I've got ABS on, but for me, it's just I hate simulation racing games where it feels like I'm just going to spin out at every corner unless I nail it perfectly. I want a bit of give and take in the handling, and I also want to be able to throw the back out and just, I like moving sideways in a racing game. And Forza's handling is just so robust, man.
Yeah.
It just feels so good to control, and too many games in the past, simulation games, it's one or the other. It's either you've got to be a real expert or the assists just destroy the experience.
Yeah.
Whereas Forza manages to have this middle ground where you feel like you're in control and you feel like the car's reliable, and it's just really a really thrilling game to play.
Yeah. I feel like it's all in how they handle the steering. There's what you'll find is that the steering on normal steering, on account of the fact that the pad is just less precise than using a wheel or something like that. The game helps you out by interpreting your inputs a little more than say a really a less forgiving sim would.
Right.
So if you're so just say you're hooking your car into a corner and you're
Yep.
sliding the back out and you're counter steering.
Yep.
The reason why it feels so intuitive and the reason why you can extricate yourself from that slide
Yep.
and power out of the corner is because the game is telling, the controller's telling the game this is what he wants to do. This is the kind of steering he needs. This is what he's interpreting your frantic stick waggling as like counter steer. It's like, and the game just gives you just enough counter steer, which you can turn off if you put on simulation steering, of course. But I mean, one of the things that I think is most impressive about the handling now, and it's all stuff that you just get told. Just they tell you, we reworked the suspension and we reworked the tyre physics.
Yep.
And that sort of stuff, and you go, okay, cool. Well, that's an interesting bullet point. I'll see what that translates to.
Yep.
And I don't make games, so I don't know what's changed under the hood in order to make it feel this way. But it really does feel remarkably more credible than it did in Forza 4.
Really?
Yeah, and that's not to say Forza 4. Like, Forza 4 had absolutely satisfying handling. I was really happy with that game. I played it a lot. But I feel like this game, in terms of the Forza series, and in terms of most of the other sort of racing games that I regularly play, has a really remarkable sense of weight to the cars.
Yep.
And it hasn't compromised speed.
Yep.
And when I say weight, I mean like some heavy cars, light cars, like this car, like the Holden, for instance, before. That's 1.5 ton, metric tons of car, 600 horsepower, and you're weaving it through those concrete walls of a Skyline. And you feel every bit of that weight, but you also feel every bit of the power.
Yep.
This car, this Ariel Atom V8, huge amount of power, very little weight whatsoever, and it's so like this is with traction control off,
right?
So it's an absolute like hummingbird of a car to try and get around this track. It's just insane, and it's just so, when you get it right, it's so satisfying.
Yeah. Oh man, I really enjoyed working my way through different classes of cars. Like, I know that one of the kind of changes with this game is you don't kind of unlock cars with each driver level.
Yeah.
And to me, that worked really well. I mean, partly because I was prepared to put the time in to earn the credits to buy another car and enter another kind of series. But I like being forced to spend a block of time with each vehicle. I mean, it would suck if, you picked a car that was just horrible and you didn't enjoy it. But, each kind of class of car that I've played with so far has been really, really satisfying. And I really, like, for a while there, like, I was loving, like, the rally car I was using.
Yep.
Because it had that weight, but like you said, it had the weight and the power, but it was kind of reliable and, a good kind of amount of sideways movement.
Yep.
But then, you kind of stepped up to like a Dodge Viper or something, and just the increase in speed and the way it forced me to kind of change how I was driving. It's great. I love it how the game subtly reinvents itself.
Here you are. Jazzabration.
Oh, that's me.
This is you. We should quickly touch on the driver tile stuff, because I think this is some of the most important stuff to talk about with this game.
Yep.
I've heard some people being a little critical of it because of its unpredictability, and because they don't take conventional lines, and because it's a little bit like putting a multiplayer experience in a single player game where you feel like the car should be a little bit more sensible and drive a little bit more conventionally, and get into little convoys and drive. Everything's very polite, which I can.
There we go.
There we go. Which I can appreciate to a certain extent, but I do feel like you'll end up racing against driver tars that match your own skill. So if you're all over the place, then maybe you will get matched against other driver tars that are a bit all over the place. Also, like I've been playing it for a week now, and my driver tar is, you only have to do 3 races to get your driver tar started.
Yep. But then it's got to sync.
And about a week in, the driver tar is only 35 or 40% synced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
what does that mean?
Well,
like,
I'm not quite sure. Yeah, but I think it's constantly learning and learning and learning. So I feel like I don't know whether the driver tar as it exists now is as good as it will be.
You're presumably not.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting.
But I didn't have any issues with the driver tars whatsoever. Like, there was no kind of... They weren't doing anything particularly weird. They were just less likely to take a hard... The official kind of racing line. They were more likely to kind of lose it and wind up off the track.
Yep.
there's only like once or twice where I saw somebody doing something really erratic on a straight, and it was kind of a problem to try and predict how to get around them.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of the time, I feel that it just adds a good level of unpredictability to the game.
Oh, totally. I really appreciated having to be more reactive to it and to what was going on around me, rather than just being able to sit back and go, well, I know what's going to happen here. These guys are going to do this. He's not going to. This guy's not going to try and pass him. Like, look at this guy in the roof here. He's taken the first guy on the right. He's moved over here, taken these 3 cars on the left.
Yep.
You really can never tell what's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, which is cool. And here's Tristan and I in the cars from Rush.
Yeah.
Split screen. Loved that it still has split screen, by the way.
Yeah, that is
one of the
cool.
things I loved about, I've always loved about the Forza games is like getting split screen and taking 2 very different cars. Like, these cars are basically identical, but taking 2 very different cars that are kind of evenly matched on performance, but in different ways, and then racing them against each other. I can just do that for hours and hours and hours.
Oh man, we're almost out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, was there what else?
I actually wanted to talk
so
about. Yeah, I wanted to talk about kind of the overall game structure. I wanted to talk a little bit about. What else did I want to talk about?
Well, I think the structure thing's the interesting thing.
Oh, the courses, the number of courses.
The number of courses, which is a fraction light, but they do look.
You know what we should say? If you got to the end, check out the IGNAU Pubcast. That's our podcast we do every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Because we will be talking Forza in that.
Yes, we will.
So look out for that, and see you later.